Welcome again to Cottage Talk. I am Russ Coleman. Joining me right now is Tony Gold. This is our preview show, which as a podcast is exclusive to Cottage Talk Patreon members, but we are broadcasting live on the Cottage Talk Facebook page and also on YouTube. So if you're watching live, thank you for joining us and our discussion here. But if you are just getting a snippet of this, the podcast version is exclusive on the Cottage Talk Patreon page. Please check out the Patreon page for more information about becoming a member of the Patreon page. All right. Mr. Gold, how are we doing? How you feeling?
I'm all good, thank you. Really good. Looking forward to the weekend of football.
I am too. And of course, our friend Chris is here and he wants to welcome Coach Tony to the show.
Great result in midweek in the Champions League. He must be buzzing after that.
I'm sure he is. Let's not get him started. Then we'll have a nonstop Liverpool talk. We don't want that. But yes, Chris, congratulations on that. All right, my friend. Let's get to talking about this match. We'll do it in the second half of the show, Brentford, and we'll get us ready for that match. And I'm excited for it, my friend. I'm actually planning on watching it with some people, so it should be fun. But before we do that, I want to talk about Marco's presser this morning. I found some interesting little snippets on it. So I'm going to actually share some information in a second. But I've wanted Marco ask this question recently, Tony, about his contract. I don't know if you saw the quotes. I'm going to be sharing them shortly. But what do you make about the fact that Marco actually did talk about his contract here?
Look, it's clearly evident that he is dragging his feet for whatever reason, because to be honest with you, how difficult is it to negotiate a new contract? You know, you either want to stay, get the contract done and dusted out the way and move on, or you're holding out for something. You're holding out for a reason. And, you know, he can sit there and say, I don't want this to be a distraction. I'm fully focused on doing my job. And, you know, we've had a conversation last season and we're always speaking and the right time will come. Well, this is the right time now. And like I said, I think he's playing the waiting game and he's going to wait to see how the season pans out.
I tend to agree with you because, again, he holds all the cards. And I'm just going to read these comments, quotes that Jack Kelly got at the presser. So I'll share both of them. First of all, Silva on his contract. This is from Jack Kelly's X account. Quote, I don't want to be a distraction. I'm fully focused since I joined. We had some conversations last season. We are always speaking. The right time to talk about will come. Also another quote, the right timing will come for these conversations for sure. Until then, until the moment that we have something to announce or not, it's never going to be a distraction. We have much more important things to talk about than my situation. Tony, I agree with that to some extent, but I think Fulham supporters want to know about his contract, and I disagree with him. I think it is a distraction. I think it's this cloud hanging over the side. I disagree with Marco. He's trying to downplay it, Tony. Like you said, he's got all the advantage here. He holds all the cards. But I disagree with him. I think it is a distraction.
Yeah, I mean, as I said, I'm very much of the opinion that this will be his last season, unless something absolutely miraculous happens this year where Fulham managed to get into the top 6, 7, and then maybe that will change everything. But I genuinely believe that he is holding out for something. I don't know quite what that is, Russ, but, he's waiting for that luxurious job to come along in the Champions League or whatever. And, look, he will leave Fulham in a good place is the honest truth. He's done, fantastically well. But I just don't see it happening beyond this year. I genuinely believe that at the moment he has taken the club as far as he can with the resources at hand and, the way that the Khans will back him or not back him as the case may be. And maybe in his mind, he's just a little bit fed up with it and he just feels that he can't drive it forward the way that he wants because he's not getting the financial backing in order to do that.
Okay. So, like I said, as you said, Tony, he's playing the long game here. He holds all the cards, and I tend to agree with you, Tony, that I don't see him coming back. I want him to come back to Fulham, sign a new deal. But as you said, why hasn't he signed it? I think he's waiting to see what else comes on the horizon. And if it does, and if it's better than what he has right now, I wouldn't be surprised if he takes that next venture on and leaves Fulham. And to me, this is a story, okay? And Chris, you're right. Listen, the Man United situation is still looming. There are others as well, and more will come. So it's in his best interest to keep his options open. It is. Let's be honest. It's not in his best interest, I think, in the long term to sign with Fulham, even though I want him to. It's in Fulham's best interest, but not his. So I get that. Unless he really wants to be at Fulham long term. So he's holding out, in my opinion, for something. Whether Fulham somehow get into Europe, I don't know if that changes his mind. I don't know. But he holds all the cards. And I will say this right now, and I've said it on prior shows, Tony. Fulham need to have plan B ready to go. Would you agree with me on this?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because, you know, we've been there before us when they haven't had plan B, and we've ended up with some absolute, you know, dross. And, you know, you don't want to be in that position where you're taking a punt on somebody because, you know, the Premier League is a brutal place, as we know, and as managers find out every season. And, you know, you've got to get someone that comes in and fits the bill, hits the ground running, builds that rapport with players, then has to implement their style, implement their tactical, you know, game plan, and then, you know, get the players to perform on the pitch. It's not as simple as, you know, just rocking up and it's all going to fall into place. So, look, it's a lot of uncertainty at the moment. As you said, you know, Marco Silva is invested in the team. He's invested in doing well. He's invested in driving us forward. So for now, let's park the contract talks. He says he's talking about it. He says there will be a time when, you know, they'll be able to sit down and have a formal conversation about it, probably just after Christmas, because that will, you know, that will be probably when, you know, we'll know roughly where Fulham are and how the season's going to pan out towards the end. So, yeah, look, it's not ideal by any stretch of the imagination. No one wants him to leave.
Right.
But ultimately, that's the way it's looking at the moment.
That's the way I would agree with you that it feels. It feels like that's the direction it's going. So to just pretend that it's not out there, I can't do that on Cottage Talk. I have to talk about it. If supporters wish I would not talk about it, I get that too. They just want to concentrate on the season. But I'm not going to put my head in the sand and pretend that this isn't happening. It is happening. It is a distraction, whether he wants to believe it or not. And Fulham have to put Fulham first, and they have to have a plan ready to go in case he leaves. I hope he doesn't, and I hope somehow something gets worked out. But we shall see. And like you said, let's now concentrate talking about the football. I agree with all that. We've talked about the contract situation. We've had someone ask him about it. So very good that it's now out there. But let's now move on to another topic that actually was part of his presser. It's Kevin. So I have my theories on what potentially is going to happen with the derby tomorrow, but I want to just share some more comments from Marco Silva. These are about Kevin, and I find them interesting because I think it also, Tony, in my opinion, goes with Marco's philosophy in bringing players along. He tends to take his time integrating new players. That's what it feels like, or goes with players that he feels strongly with. I do want to mention that Marco in his presser mentioned that something with Alex Iwobi, that he's dealing with something, but they're going to have to wait and see on that. But it doesn't sound something that's too major. So he was kind of being a little bit coy on that. We'll see if Iwobi is available. If he's available, I expect him to start. I'm going to say that right now. But here are the comments from Marco on Kevin. Just a couple. There were several. So I'll start here. Quote Silva on Kevin. It's not surprising that people are excited. We knew what he was capable of. It's very difficult to stop him in 1v1 situations. He can stretch the opposition. It's very good. He needs time to adapt, but I can understand why people are excited. Another quote, we needed a player like him. Adama had an impact too. We expect the same from Chukwueze. Kevin, in talent. That's why we paid the money. He has to fight hard versus very good players in the squad. Unquote. Tony, that last part is where I want to talk about this. Interesting comments about Kevin. I think many are assuming he's going to start against Brentford. I would say I am not 100% sure that he's going to. In fact, I'm leaning towards he's not going to start him because of his past track record. I'm talking about the manager. What are your thoughts? I think the one variable in this is Iwobi. So if Iwobi can't play, maybe Kevin starts. But I think if Iwobi's ready to go, Kevin does not start, and that would actually really upset me. What are your thoughts about the comments and also about Kevin's availability for tomorrow? And do you think he's going to start?
Look, I think you hit the nail on the head with Iwobi. The pictures that I've seen, he suffered an impact injury to his ankle, looked quite swollen, a bit bruised. With those types of injuries, yes, players can play through it, but it just depends on how comfortable Iwobi feels, with the boot on and him running on it. I think if he's declared himself fit, then I don't see Silva changing it. Would I start Kevin in this game tomorrow at home under the lights, 8 o'clock kickoff against your biggest rivals? Absolutely, yes. Simply because of the impact that he had when he came on last week. Why not start him? Why not give him the opportunity to go and express himself and be that player that everybody, wants him to be and can see? And to be perfectly honest with you, Russ, the performance last week against Leeds first half was so drab and so turgid. There was no excitement at all from anyone. I cannot watch that game tomorrow and just see us, workmanlike and just, fitter through minutes of a game, just creating nothing and doing nothing. And here's a great opportunity to light the place up and get someone that wants to get at players, wants to take players on, wants to take defenders into areas they don't want to go. And like Chris just says there, unleash the Kevin. Unleash him. Let him play. Start him. What possibly can Silva be looking at from last week to think, do you know what? I don't need to change it because Harry Wilson and Iwobi were electric. I don't see it. If he's fit and he's raring to go, start him and put him in.
I'm there with you, Tony. Again, based on the quotes, and Chris actually picked up on the quotes too, because that's what it sounds like to me, right? I wanted to wait until I saw the quotes from Silva to get a feel for what we might or might not see from Kevin. And I think, like you said, a lot to me will be determined, as you mentioned, by Iwobi. If Iwobi can play, I truly believe he's going to roll out the same side. Because it doesn't sound like, based on what I'm hearing, that Jedi's going to start. So Jedi might be able to play, but I don't think he's going to start. So I think you're going to see Sessegnon as your left back. That's my thoughts on that. But then you go to who are going to be your two wingers. I like one of them to be Kevin, but if Iwobi's available, and we're going to talk about the starting 11, I think he's simply going to roll out that midfield 2 again with Josh King. And we'll talk about that later. I have a strange feeling that we're going to see the similar lineup that we saw against Leeds United, but we shall wait and see what Marco decides to do. He's tends to be a creature of habit and usually goes with what he feels confident with, but I'll give my thoughts when we get there, my friend. Let's move on. Let's get into talking about the match. And as we do, I want to get your thoughts on Brentford. I watched their last match and I really wanted to get a feel for it because of the match coming up with us. And I know it's against the other club in Fulham, Chelsea, and all that stuff. But watching that team, and listen, they've lost a lot. They have a new manager who I really can't stand. I think you're feeling probably similar to me. I really want to beat Brentford for many reasons. One of them is their manager, but I think this is a team that is there for the taking. I don't think that they're terrible, but I think that they've lost a lot. What do you make of Brentford heading into this match?
Well, interestingly enough, Fulham haven't beaten Brentford 3 times in a row since 1929, Russ.
Oh, you got to bring me that stat? Okay.
Sorry. So that's just something to bear in mind. However, that said, obviously, look, there's a lot of variables tomorrow that you have to take into consideration. The first thing is it's not a normal game in terms of it's an 8 p.m. kickoff on a Saturday night. So that changes everything straight away, right? Players prepare differently. Match preparation is very different. So that's all very, very different. The second thing you have to take into consideration is it's a London derby and one of our biggest rivals. So a lot of tactical stuff and formations and all that kind of stuff is just going to go out the window. Okay. Because it's going to be a lot of blood and thunder and, hopefully players flying into tackles and yeah, look, it's going to be about who wants it the most. And obviously us being at home, we have to take the initiative. I think Brentford are a very different animal to what they were last season, obviously with Thomas Frank moving on. I think Keith Andrews, I'm not a big fan of his either, Russ, if I'm honest, but he's finding his feet, he's settling down. Brentford have started, I would say, pretty much like us, been a bit inconsistent. They've incidentally lost both their away matches so far this season.
This is true.
And you know what? He rested a couple of players midweek in the win against Villa. I don't think Henderson and Pinnock and Thiago played. I expect all those 3 to come in. And the big question mark is he going to start Carvalho? Because he's going to have a point to prove and want to come back and make a point. So look, they won't be easy because Keith Andrews, what he does get out of his team is he expects them to work hard. Yeah. He will expect them to chase. Will he keep 11 men behind the ball like Thomas Frank did last season? I don't think he will. I think he'll be quite expansive and I think he'll take the game to us.
Okay. So he has used the 3-5-2 recently. What do you make of Fulham playing against that formation over Silva's time as manager? They have struggled against the 3-5-2.
I think, honestly, Russ, if he plays 3-5-2 against us tomorrow night and we play the wingers that we should play, I think we could cause Brentford a lot of damage.
I actually think so. I agree with you. But it has to be the right wingers.
It has to, and I know which wingers I would play in this particular game. And we'll come on to that. But as I said, if they play 3-5-2, it's a great opportunity for Fulham to really get at them and be positive. And I don't see any reason why they shouldn't.
Okay. Interesting take by you, Tony. And what do you make of Jordan Henderson coming back to the Premier League, coming back from, he was in Saudi Arabia, obviously, then he went into Europe. Now he's back with Brentford. What do you expect from him in this? It's funny because I was listening to Besotted because I want to get a feel for what they were talking about. They talked a little bit about Jordan Henderson, that he can still pick a pass. What do you make of Jordan Henderson playing for Brentford?
What he brings them is organization, leadership, and
this is exactly what they were talking about.
And experience, and he's been there, seen it, done it, got the T-shirt. And whatever you think about Jordan Henderson, and look, at the end of the day, he's a great player to have around in terms of that experience. He knows when to hold the ball, when to pass the ball. Yeah, he might not have the legs anymore, but look, what he's achieved in his career, a lot of footballers will never, ever get the opportunity to do. Should he still be playing for England? No, absolutely not. But he's, he is that player that's got that experience that will rally the youngsters around him and keep things organized and keep ticking over. And for me, he's a big asset at the moment as far as Brentford are concerned in terms of the changes that they've had. He brings that calmness.
I would tend to agree with all that. That's why I wanted to get your thoughts on Jordan Henderson, because I think that's an asset. You mentioned Carvalho. Again, listen to Besotted. They don't know if he's going to start. How would you feel if Fabio Carvalho starts against Fulham?
I wouldn't feel one way or the other. I hope he does start. I really do, because I'm telling you now, if I'm Sander Berg, the minute he gets on the ball, I'm smashing him into Rose Ed, and I'm going to let him know about it. It's that simple. And that's how we're going to have to play tomorrow against Brentford. We're going to have to be aggressive. We're going to have to be on the front foot, and we're going to have to be at it. And, if Carvalho thinks he's just going to rock up back at the Cottage, we have to make sure that he doesn't. And that's down to the players.
Totally agree with you, my friend. All right, let's get on to 3 keys to victory. Then we'll go to the starting 11. We'll end with our prediction for the match. So let's start with number 3. Give me your number 3 key to victory for Fulham against Brentford Saturday night.
Clean sheet. Clean sheet. Simple as that. If we have to defend well, we have to, make sure that we defend outside our box really, really, really well. Interestingly enough, and there's been a slight turn in that, in as much as we haven't yet conceded a goal from open play, Russ.
I know that's actually a very interesting stat, Tony.
Right?
That we haven't talked about it.
Two corners and 2 penalties, 4 goals conceded from set pieces, and that's something obviously that Fulham have to be bang on tomorrow, because that is a strength of Brentford from free kicks and set pieces. They will be dangerous, and they've also got that throw. So, it's really important that we're switched on. But for me, the first thing, if we keep a clean sheet, we don't lose the game.
Okay, and I'm going to go along with that as my number 3. Very similar. Mistake-free at the back. It's really the same thing. Cannot give them a free chance to score here. Just have to, that back 4, and Leno cannot make any mistakes. I always go back when I think about matches like this to that West Ham match at the London Stadium, where that's all it took was just a couple mistakes. And in a match like this with an opponent like this, don't give them a freebie. You have to play mistake-free, because that will set everything up. I agree with you. And then also, like you said, defending set pieces, I think, is going to be massive, that long throw. I'm glad you brought that up. I think that is key as well, my friend. Okay, let's go to number 2. Give me your number 2 key to victory.
The midfield battle.
I was thinking this. You beat me to it. Go ahead.
We have to win the midfield battle. It's as simple as that. And when I say win the midfield battle, I'm not just talking about, winning first tackles, winning second tackles. I'm talking about winning the ball and using it wisely and moving it forward, not side to side, not backwards, but getting it forward into transitions where we can break in the final third and start creating chances, which is something we just did not do against Leeds. And in order for that to happen, you have to have the right personnel. And we'll talk about that, but ultimately we have to win the midfield battle.
Okay. I was actually had this penciled in, so Chris actually stole my thunder, because I was going to say you have to start fast. I'm not talking about an early goal, but I think you have to set the tempo. And as Chris already commented, if you set the right tempo and you're playing on the front foot, you get the crowd involved, I think everything snowballs, Tony. So I
that's
think
a gimme, Russ. No, that's a gimme. It's a London derby. They should be up for it. They've got to start the game fast and furious and be at it. We're playing Brentford.
I know. I'm there with you, but with this team, is anything a given? So I'm just saying we're going to have to. I agree with everything that you said, and I know that the players are going to be up for it. But I'm just telling you what I hope we see, and I think part of it, I'm going to be honest with you, I think it's going to be dictated by what Marco does. And that's going to go to my number 1 key, and then I'll get yours. I think Marco is going to play a major factor in this. What is he going to go with, Tony? As Chris was mentioning, is he going to – I think he was intimating that he's going to play Berge and Lukic together in that 4-2-3-1. Will he go with that again? I think his decisions will play a major role. He has to win the coaching battle. He has to set Fulham up in the right way for victory. I don't want to be Safe Silva. I know what you're saying. It's a London derby. It's a West London derby against Brentford. But I think you still have to be forward thinking against this opponent. I don't want to see them playing a team like this afraid to win. They have to play to win the game, to win the match, and play on the front foot. Marco has a lot to do with that. That's my number 1 key.
My number one key, Russ, is dropping out Lukic, right? Putting in Smith Rowe, playing Kevin and Traore and Raul up front. If he plays with those 4 players in those positions, we win the game comfortably.
Wow.
That's my number one key to victory.
Okay. Very interesting. Well, we're going to get to that in 1 second because we'll talk about the starting 11. So here's one. Just give the ball to Kevin would be my team talk. Well, let's hope, Tony, that he's starting in this match. I really want to see him from the get-go. And that's going to lead for us to go to our starting 11. And then we'll ultimately, the two of us, we're going to project or predict what we think Marco is going to do. So give me your starting 11. Again, you were talking about a few of the players.
My starting 11 tomorrow is very simple. I watched Brentford closely against Chelsea. I thought they were very susceptible on the counter. They looked very ropey in behind, certainly in the fullback areas. So I would be going with Leno in goal. Back 4 doesn't change. Sessegnon, Anderson, Bassi, and Tete. That stays the same. But the changes I make, I keep Berger in as the holding midfield player.
Yep.
And I just say to him, hold the middle of the park, break up play. Once you win the ball, you get it wide, nice and early, to Kevin on one side, Traore on the other, Smith Rowe and Josh King, and Raul.
I love this. See, I'm not going to change anything because I think that gives Fulham such a great platform to win this match. And then you still have plenty on the bench, Tony, that if 100%. You still need to change things, you still have players. But I think you are going with a strong attacking lineup.
Well, you're going with a front foot. You're going with a front foot team, Russ, right? You've got flair. You've got dribbling ability. You've got pace. Okay. Muniz hasn't done it in 3 games. It's time for him to come out.
It's time for a change.
And put Raul up there. And I'm telling you now, Raul will get so many opportunities with Kevin and Traore and with Smith Rowe and Josh King coming deep and making those third man runs into the box, which is something we haven't been doing in any of the games that we've played so far. It's about playing expansive, front foot, brave football at home against Brentford in a London derby. Take the game to them and go and win the game.
Okay.
Go and win the game.
I'm there with you. I just want to play this out. I want to play devil's advocate, okay? Because I'm all for this. I'm going with you on this. The one area that if you're Silva would probably be concerning with him, because he's already talked about the possibility at some point playing King and Smith Rowe together, because that gives you a dynamic, basically 2 number 10s, right? It really does. It's very dynamic. Defensively, do you have faith that Berger can get it done without Lukic?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Because actually, it's not just about Berger. It means that when we're out of possession of the ball, Smith Rowe and Josh King have to make sure.
I have to share this. Yes, Marco, listen to Coach Tony. I agree with you.
Yeah, if only. It means that Smith Rowe and Josh King need to drop a little bit deeper out of possession just to protect those lines. And they're both capable of doing that, Russ. Right. And as long as Traore and Kevin get their starting positions right out of possession, then I don't see it being a problem. I think defensively, 1v1, I would back Sessegnon and Tete to deal with any 1v1 situations.
Yep.
And as long as Anderson and Bassi bring their A games, I genuinely think, honestly, that if with that side, Russ, we would obliterate Brentford. I honestly believe that.
We would put them under so much pressure because we'd be hitting them from all different parts of the pitch. That is, to me, using your team the best possible way. Put them under pressure. You've got 2 wingers that would scare the hell out of Brentford. We both agree with that, right? Then you have 2 dynamic. I still believe Smith Rowe's dynamic, okay? 2 dynamic players in midfield. And then you've got Berger holding, protecting that back 4. I think it works. And then you have Raul, who I think would feast. I think he would feast here, Tony. Because I think
it's almost like a 4-1-4-1 is what I'm thinking of. And actually, as I said, and that becomes any shape you want out of possession. But it's key, as I said, out of possession to stop Brentford breaking. And I don't see them really. I don't think they've got enough in their arsenal to cause us major problems. It's only if we make mistakes, and we know that we've got players in certain positions that, have that capability.
Yep.
I'm hoping now that, Anderson's turned a corner. I'm hoping now that, that we're clinical at both ends. And obviously the clean sheet last week is a positive. So look, at the end of the day, as I said, it's a London derby. Anything can happen. And, how involved are VAR going to get tomorrow? How involved will the referee be tomorrow? You've got to take into consideration all of those things as well, Russ. It's not just about the players, unfortunately.
Oh, I don't even want to go there, but I agree with you on that. I was trying not to think about all that part of it, but it is a part of it. We can't just ignore that VAR and the ref are going to be a factor here, because they probably will at some point. We'll just have to deal with that. All right. We've laid out you and I are in agreement on the starting 11. Here's the thing. What do you think Marco's going to do? And I'm going to tell you what I think Marco's going to do. I think Marco's going to go with your back four along with Leno. I think if Iwobi is ready to go, Tony, he's going with Iwobi and Wilson. And then he's going to go Berga, Lukic, Josh King. And I think he actually still will stick with Muniz. I think he's going to throw out the same team. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he'll switch to Raul. But I think he's going to play Berga and Lukic, and I think I'm going to be upset.
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't give you any reason to think he's not going to go with exactly what he did. I think the only change he makes tomorrow from the Leeds game, Russ, is I think Muniz doesn't start, and I think Raul starts. Yeah, that's the only change I think he will make. And actually, thinking about it, I've got a sneaky feeling that he might not start Josh King tomorrow.
Oh,
I've just got a sneaky, I don't know why, I've just got a feeling that he might not start him tomorrow. I don't know why, I've just got a little feeling, but I do think that Raul starts instead of Muniz tomorrow.
Okay.
That's the only change I see. And obviously, if the Josh King thing comes to fruition, don't be surprised.
Okay. And that's actually something to watch. It's funny you say that, because Silva if say a player has not performed to his level and Josh King did not perform to his level. However, like I said, it's the age, the situation. I think that there are other factors, but I see why you're feeling that way. I hope he starts. I desperately hope he starts, but I would love to see him and Smith Rowe play together. I just don't think he's going to do it. I think he's going to play safe Silva. I think that's what he's going to do. All right, my friend, let's end this episode. Give me your prediction and I'll share mine.
Okay, so obviously going with my head, not my heart, Russ, because I think if Silva doesn't change it up tomorrow, if he does, stick to type, if he keeps Muniz up front, and you've got to remember, as I said, 2 of our 3 goals have come from set pieces, and an own goal. So again, we haven't really created anything from open play as such either. So if he goes with the team that he started with against Leeds last week, I don't see what's going to change, Russ. And I think that puts us on the back foot. I think it puts us in the negative zone. And unfortunately, I just see it ending up being a drab 1-1 draw.
Okay.
Unfortunately.
I hope you're not right, my friend. I really hope you're wrong. I'm going to go with the standard 2-1. I'm going to say 2-1. I would like to say 3-1. Maybe I'll change my mind if I see the starting 11 and it's different than what I'm predicting, right? But if he goes the safe route, I'm going to say 2-1. But I'm going to say it right now. You could very much be right here, because it sets up like the Leeds United. If he sets Fulham up like the Leeds United match, then it's going to be a very hard watch, my friend. It's going to be a hard watch. It could very easily be that. I understand why you're going on that. Michael West is going 2-0. Let's see. Chris is going 2-1. Why do you got to put Fabio in this, Chris? Why? Because he played for Liverpool for a cup of coffee? He barely played for Liverpool. Let him go. He played for Fulham longer than he played for.
Look, if
for
we
Liverpool.
win the game, Russ, and he scores, I couldn't care less, to be honest. Let him have his moment. He hasn't had many since he left us, to be fair.
No, he had one last week. So congratulations to him. I'm a little bitter about the whole thing. I'm not going to lie when it comes to Fabio. But anyways, good stuff. Before we go, let's wrap up this show and get your final thoughts, my friend. Great show as always.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously great comments from everyone listening and watching. And look, as said, I hope for all I want to see, Russ, is an improvement. Look, I know we got the points last week and we got the victory and we got the clean sheet. So you know what? You can't really question anything. But watching our performance, honestly, it was so drab. It was awful. And, you know, people are paying good money to watch that. And I think they're being mugged off a little bit in that regard. So look, tomorrow night, they have to be brave. They have to play on the front foot. And that comes from Marco Silva. At the end of the day, he's the one that puts them out there. He's the one that instructs them. And I just hope tomorrow he looks at this a little bit more positively. Smith Rowe at some point has to get some game time. He has to start playing because you've got a great talent sitting on the bench, just wasting away. And I just don't get it. So yeah, look, I'm looking forward to it, but I think it's not going to be as easy as people may think. And yeah, I'm looking forward to hopefully seeing a better performance than last week.
Okay, before I give you my thoughts, I have to share this from Chris. He says, I could have said a Fabio hat trick, but I would never do that to you, Russ. Thank you. But you just said it. Okay. Very, very good. So the way I'm looking at it, it goes back to my number one key to victory. Marco Silva needs to win the coaching battle. What I mean is he can't play it safe. He's got to be brave. If he tells his players all the time to be brave, the manager has to be brave too. So he needs to be brave and not play it safe. If he plays it safe, I think, Tony, you'll end up being right. But if he is brave, I think he'll be rewarded for being brave. That's why I'm going 2-1. I'm hoping he goes against type a little bit and goes brave. And I think that would be great for us because then it's actually something to build on. But I think, like I said, a lot is going to be told to us before the match. We're going to learn something before the match. You can't always say that. But I think we're going to learn something. And if Kevin starts and we don't have that double pivot of Berg and Lukic, then maybe things are going to be different, Tony. Maybe it won't be safe. But if it comes to what I think it's going to be, then I think it's going to be a very tough watch. That's just the way I feel. Okay. Great show as always. And I just want to thank everyone that watched live. As I mentioned, if you want more, please still go to the Cottage Talk Patreon page. This podcast is exclusive there on the Cottage Talk Patreon page. Please do check it out. Okay. Well, that's going to do it for this episode. He's Tony Gold. I'm Russ Goldman. Thank you as always for watching and listening to Cottage Talk.